The Wonderful World of Darklords. Report 14. Sunnyside. I confess that at first I did not even recognize Sunnyside as a domain. I assumed that the village was one of the many tiny hamlets too inconsequential to appear on any but the most comprehensive maps. Only now do I realize that it is a domain like Halloween Town. Rather than being tethered to a single location, it floats from one realm to another, ensnaring its prey. But I am getting ahead of my account. As mentioned, I stopped in Sunnyside to resupply before the next domain on my itinerary. There is a single inn in the town, which also serves as a foundling home for the many children orphaned by the terrors of the night, and I found myself tripping over toys every time I tried to cross a room. The innkeeper apologized repeatedly, saying that she tried to keep the toys away from the common room, but that they almost seemed to move themselves when her back was turned. When I turned in for the night, I found that a child had left one of the toys on my bureau, a battered pink bear smelling faintly of strawberries. I made a mental note to return the bear to the innkeeper in the morning. That turned out to be impossible. I awoke to find myself in what seemed to be a windowless, rectangular room. My limbs felt oddly stiff and clumsy, and I was certain that I had been poisoned. Before I could make any move to escape my prison, however, the ceiling lifted on a hinge, allowing in a shaft of sunlight. To my horror, I saw a jointed wooden body in place of my own, clad in a fanciful witch costume. My prison was a toy chest, and I now knew why there were so many toys in Sunnyside Inn. The Lord. As I climbed from the toy chest with wooden limbs, the pink bear strolled toward me, surrounded by other toys. He introduced himself as Lotso, and refused to answer any of my questions about what had happened to me. While he repeatedly assured me that he would do everything he could to restore me to my original form, his promises were vague, and I didn't need magic to know that he was lying. He also asked that I remain in the nursery for the youngest foundlings while he searched for a solution. I later learned from toys outside the walls of the inn that Lotso had once been an adventurer, but was trapped in his current form by a carionette. Forever parted from his family, he determined that all other adventurers who crossed his path would be parted from theirs as well. Supposedly, he used a needle like a carionette's to accomplish this, but with a crucial difference. Rather than exchanging his consciousness with that of his victim, it transformed the victim's body into a child's plaything. As none of the other toys in Sunnyside had any memory of being human, I suspected that by the time he found a solution, I would no longer desire it. I would believe that I was, and had always been, a simple wooden doll. The land. I am generally fond of children, but the younger foundlings in Sunnyside seemed determined to change my mind. After being hurled across the room, sat upon, and used as a makeshift percussion instrument, I found myself wishing that my new body were as unfeeling as wood. Worse yet, some horrible spell gripped me when the children were in the room. If a single pair of eyes fell on me, I was unable to speak or move. Only when the children were all distracted by an unfortunate cat was I able to assume gaseous form and escape. I was relieved to find that my magic still worked. Although life was miserable for the toys in the nursery, a condition that I suspect Lotso and his compatriots did not share, being housed with the older foundlings, I was surprised to see how happy the humans were in Sunnyside, even those children who had lost their parents. There were no wreaths of garlic to ward off the undead, no constant testing of the food for poison, no jackbooted soldiers or whispered conversations about terrible future events. Remembering the apparent utopia of Encanto, I tried to uncover some hidden dark truth beneath their happiness, but there was none. Although the toys suffered, the people had lives that anyone outside Sunnyside would envy. Given what I knew of Lotso's past, I suspect that some within Sunnyside envied them as well. Dread possibilities. Travel is always slow with gaseous form, and I was dismayed to find that my diminutive size made me even slower. I was scarcely able to escape through an open window before the spell wore off, leaving me lying helpless on the road beside the foundling home. I attempted to hide under the porch, but before I could, A large hand lifted me up from the ground, and I found myself smiling fixedly into the face of an unkempt man with a beard and a strident voice. At first I thought he intended to return me to the waiting arms of the foundlings, but instead he carried me to a toy shop, babbling about how he couldn't wait to find a buyer for me. He secured me in a wooden box, which was simple enough to unlock when he left. There, I met another unfortunate whom Lotso had transformed into a toy, a miner. The miner could not remember anything of his past, but had learned Lotso's story during his own time at Sunnyside and shared his knowledge with me. Although his manner was friendly, I had the sense he was lying to me, and Eldritch Sight revealed that he had magic items on his person even though he denied it. I refused his offers for help and slipped into a crate of ragdolls that the toy maker was sending to Blinsky's toy shop, using Mask of Many Faces to look like one of them. I hid in the crate for over a day, and tried to alleviate my boredom by thinking about my family. To my horror, I found that I could no longer remember my brother's name or face, nor could I remember his wife or my own parents. But his child... He did have a child, didn't he? A child who might play with me. Yes, I would like that. I would like that very much. I felt the crate lifting with me inside, carrying the toys and me into the mists. I may have temporarily forgotten my brother's face, but I will never forget the courier's expression when one of the ragdolls burst out of the crate, a full-grown human woman. It seems that leaving Sunnyside breaks the transmutation spell. A fortunate stroke for me. Parting thoughts. I find myself wondering how many people ended their lives in Sunnyside believing themselves to be children's playthings, and I almost want to return so I can throw that bear into a fire. Truthfully, I would be tempted to do so were it not for the fear that I would transform again upon crossing the border. I am most shaken by the effect this journey had on my memories. Forgetting my family was horrifying, and I find myself wondering whether they will forget me as well over my long absence. Before I take up my Marigold Mist talisman and travel to the next domain, I will write my brother and niece a letter. Though I have to journey far, I pray they know I am with them the only way that I can be, and that until I'm in their home again, they remember me. Regards, D.
Such wandering domains, or pocket domains, as the scholars refer to them, often pose a hindrance on those who rule lands are not awarded with such luxuries. Particularly so when Knossos appears to offload their latest pile of refuse, or Jack Skellington decides he wants to play act a far more capable leader. Sunnyside, on the other hand, with its cheerful population, draws in strays, which is quite suitable for Lotso's needs. The pink bear's uncanny ability to transform my scholar while she slept should not be overlooked. He may be gifted with potent abilities to remain unseen and unheard, which would allow him to perform such magics undetected. May even render him capable of movement when mortal eyes are about. Such abilities would grant him a firmer hold over the playground, no doubt. Or perhaps my little servant is a particularly sound sleeper. Regardless, given the association of dolls and witchcraft, I expect you to be more observant in the future and wary of seemingly innocent additions to your quarters. In the unlikely event my servant finds herself transformed once more, I can easily return her to her true mind and form. Of course, one must escape as my little scholar did to receive such assistance. Other, less capable individuals deserve their fate.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at DarkLordAslan. The Wonderful World of Dark Lords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.